There's one thing that every military student has in common, and that's that they raised their right hand and swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Everything after that, in my humble opinion, is a function of luck and timing. And where you go in the world, what happens in the world when you go there. And all of us know people that went on certain deployments or were on this ship, and this happened on that ship, and all that is about timing. But every one of them raised their right hand. And regardless if they served a few months or 20 or 30 years, that is the one thing that binds all of them together. So it's important that we recognize that.
And welcome back to On Air with Student Affairs, the podcast that showcases all the ways you can create your Aggie experience here at Texas A&M. I'm your host, Morgan Miles, and I am the loudest and the proudest Fighting Texas Aggie of the class of 2026, AAA. Woo! And today we are talking with the director of the Don and Ellie Knauss Veterans Resource and Support Center, John Fleming, and student veterans Jesse Zavala and Jake Staley. How are you?
Good.
Fantastic.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. So can you tell us a little bit about the VRSC and what it is for those that don't know?
Sure. So I'm John, class 94, and I'm a retired Marine. And the Don and Ellie Knauss Veterans Resource and Support Center is really three things. So first, it's a department within Division of Student Affairs. It's also a team of people that support student veterans on our campus. And then third, it's an actual place where student veterans can come. So we have a number of things that go on in the VRSC that I think we'll get to in some of your other questions, but that's really what it is.
Oh, awesome. So can you tell us about your time serving and how you ended up here at A&M?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a little bit of a different story. I grew up on the West Coast, so I'm not a Texas native.
Wait, where are you from?
I'm from California.
Oh, hey.
So a little bit up north of the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. So I had a bit of a tough time in school growing up. The military was a way to sort of kind of not get me out of a bad situation, but it was a way to sort of like, how can I, propel myself a little bit forward? How can I sort of build some of that structure that at that time I felt like I needed. So I enlisted in 2014. I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps. Most of that was spent overseas. I was able to, touch many countries. I was able to, spend time in Asia, Africa, Europe, little bit of the Middle East, and so I spent a lot of time overseas, and I really cultivated a passion for wanting to travel for the rest of my life. So, around about a year or two out, I also met my better half, and so there was sort of I had my relationship, and I had this desire to sort of just grow professionally, move on to something else, and she's from Texas. So, I made the decision, hey, you know what, let's try Texas. I will openly admit that I had, prior to, leaving the military, I had no idea what Texas A&M was. I didn't know much. I didn't know much about anything, to be honest, with Texas A&M related. But, I took a leap of faith. I jumped over here, and ever since then it's been a fire hose of information and learning new things. Yeah. But I think it's been a really fun experience learning something new. At the very core, I was able to travel to a new place and pick up some new things. And the programs here are fantastic. So that's also some of the things that I looked into. Texas A&M has a fantastic study abroad program. They have fantastic majors related to anything international. So it was a natural fit. A little bit of luck. It was a natural fit. So,
oh, thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, like you said, I was in high school. It's not something that was my primary focus was academics, and I grew up around here. So I saw A&M. I cheered on the Aggies every Saturday with my family, and it's just I thought that I needed to go to work. So I ended up going to work and realizing that I wanted to do different. I wanted to do more out of life, and so I ended up joining the Navy. I joined the Navy Reserves. I contacted A&M and I said, hey, I want to be a part of this. I want to come here if that's a possibility, because I was familiar with them being really, really advantageous towards veterans and helping and with the resources available to us. So I reached out and they said, hey, you need to deploy. I said, all right. So I volunteered for a deployment, spent some time overseas, and came back and got the ball rolling. So I came here and I never thought it was possible. And with the resources available to veterans, it was not only was it made easy for me to be able to find ways to get in and then ways to succeed here, but it was also easy for me to be able to get involved.
So the way I got to A&M, I come from a military family. Mm-hmm. So I went to high school in Montgomery, Alabama, actually. And I went to the Naval Academy Preparatory School in Rhode Island. I did not make it through there academically. And my two sisters had gone to A&M, so I came to A&M. And I commissioned through the Platoon Leaders Class program as an officer in the United States Marine Corps in 1995. I spent 20 years on active duty. I'm a logistics officer by trade. So I enjoyed every minute of leading Marines and deploying all over the world to a variety of real garden spots and serving our nation in that capacity. I retired from active duty in 2015 and came back and joined the Office of the Commandant's Staff here at A&M. And then just a couple of months ago, I moved over as the director of the VRSC.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your service. How many student veterans does A&M serve?
Right now, we've got about just under 1,100 that are actually, I would use the term military students because you really have four categories there. You have the traditional veterans like Jesse and Jake are. You also have those that are serving in the National Guard currently, those that are reservists that are in the Armed Forces Reserve, and then also active duty. A&M's got quite a few active duty personnel that are here earning their bachelor's degree or their advanced degree.
Gotcha. So this one, I guess this question everybody can answer, but specifically for our student veterans. So what are some unique challenges that are y'all face?
Yeah, absolutely. I can take that. So again, my name is Jesse, class of 23, now class of 25 for grad school. So I think one of the biggest challenges that I've felt and, through second, third hand accounts, is this idea that it's a fundamental transition. So, the military is one thing, academics is another. In a ideal world, we go from high school to higher education, but, the path of a student veteran is a little bit different. Student veterans, they essentially, they're serving for X amount of years, and then they move on into just a whole different phase of life, and that comes with its own challenges. Many times they're exciting challenges, but they're still challenges regardless. That takes, new study habits. That takes, adjusting from a different lifestyle. Learning about budgeting, learning about different programs, learning how to be a civilian essentially. So you're learning how to be a good student and a good civilian. That's what I would say is probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with him. I would bank off that as well and say that you come in and you're balancing different things than the traditional student, right? So the traditional student is balancing finding their peers, finding their group, and finding that way through school and how to balance academics, like he said. A lot of the times people are coming back from a life that was very structured and strict, and you have the majority of your physiological needs met and laid out for you. Now you're coming back and you're having to find these things on your own. So housing, you have to figure out if you have a family, how to provide for them. So we face different challenges that the traditional student doesn't necessarily face. And by having this space for us to come and convene with peers that have similar experiences is it's a godsend. We love it.
Yeah.
Right on.
So what advice would you give to someone who's a student veteran and is currently trying to figure out how to balance time and all the things?
I would say to go to the VRSC, find your group, find your community, because having that resource and having people to lean on that have similar experiences is something that's invaluable.
And then I would add on to that by saying that, the understanding is that it is challenging. It's a new life. It's not supposed to be easy. And I think, these are a little bit my own personal beliefs, but I think if you're uncomfortable, it's good. You're growing and you're learning. And I think, as a veteran transitioning into academics, I would say that some things, don't change, such as the community that you can find that kind of structure around, whether it's the veteran community or just other students at large. So it's just like in the military. They say if you need support, you find it, and that doesn't change here.
Right. Awesome. So what are some of the programs or initiatives offered by the VRSC?
I'll take a couple, and then y'all can,
Sure,
y'all can
absolutely,
throw in
yeah.
a few others. There's actually a lot. So I'll hit the financial aspect. There are 190, I think it's 190, there may be a couple of new ones, scholarships that are for military students. They're endowed scholarships. So that is kind of the first thing. And we in partnership with Scholarships and Financial Aid, run those through the VRSC. So if you are a veteran or a military student that's out there and you're verified through our system and you do your common application, which opened on October 15th, do your application if you haven't done it, then you qualify for one of those scholarships. And so that, back to some of the things Jake was talking about and adjusting to a life where things aren't necessarily all provided for you and you run into financial problems, those scholarships are there. There's a couple of other different financially related programs that we have. We have what's called a SAVE program and a SAVE SP program. So those are emergency fund programs. So if you are a military student and you're struggling, that could be a number of different things. We have generous donors that have given us money to distribute to student veterans in those type of situations. And our goal through all of those is for that person, that student, to stay in school.
Right.
We never want a student to be put in a position where they have to choose. I can either provide for myself and my family, but that means I got to leave school and go get a job.
Right.
Or there is a something the VRSC has in-house that can plug that gap right now and keep them in school.
Right.
So the other Save SP program is specific for childcare. So we have a lot of student veterans who come to us with families.
Yeah.
And they have kids. And we got a lot of kids, which is cool. I love kids. But childcare is expensive.
Right.
And so we have a fund specifically for that.
I love that. That's so sweet.
Yeah, I'm happy to add on to that as well. In terms of the Veterans Resource Center, its physical location, it offers a lot. It offers things such as like snacks. We have snacks that are donated. That are there's always a healthy rotation of like just quick pick me ups that you need. It's a late night study spot if you need it. It's it's a comfortable area. They have a lounge. They have multiple study spots where you can isolate yourself if you need to. There's some that are a little bit more built around collaboration. And then we also have social events. So, we have our things such as like lunch and learns. We have, every third Thursday we have, a social event up at Rudder Tower where, hey, just, come by, grab a burger on your way home, meet a couple new veterans and then, take off, for your weekend. Every now and then we have our tailgates, where we partner with other organizations. And then we also have things such as our Thanksgiving lunches. Right. We have our Maroon Santa. We have different holiday events that keep in consideration the student veterans that don't necessarily really they're from out of state and they don't have a means or way to get home. So there's a community here. And then there's some of the external ones that are also available to student veterans. So there's things such as there's parking, there's priority registration, disability services, and even mental health initiatives that are tailored towards student veterans that they can absolutely take advantage of and are always encouraged to.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would like to focus on the actual physical space itself because, in my opinion, it's the gateway to all of the resources, right? So in my experience and my peers' experience, a lot of the times they come to campus. We're student veterans. You have the initial resources that get us here, such as your education benefits and stuff like that. But you're not made aware of all of these problems because you go through vet camp and it's a beautiful process and you get just a ton of information. So it's kind of hard to decipher and pull from every single one of those exactly what it is. So in my opinion, I would say the greatest resource is the physical space itself because you can come in and you can find yourself, you can find your community, you can find your peer group. And within that space, you find people like Jesse, you find people like Dawn, you find people like our front desk workers, everyone that's in there, and they come to you and you get a stern, sharp howdy, and then you hear the conversations that are going on. You see the uniforms, you see the goofy mustaches from the guys who came off of their reserve duty, and you have that aspect of I'm back to where I belong. Now you're an Aggie and you're a veteran.
Awesome. I love that answer. Why is it so important to support our veterans?
I'll start. then y'all can jump in.
Absolutely.
There's one thing that every military student has in common, and that's that they raised their right hand and swore to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Everything after that, in my humble opinion, is a function of luck and timing. And where you go in the world, what happens in the world when you go there. And all of us know people that went on certain deployments or were on this ship, and this happened on that ship, and all that is about timing. But every one of them raised their right hand. And regardless if they served a few months or 20 or 30 years, that is the one thing that binds all of them together. So it's important that we recognize that. And this university has a very, very long history all the way back to its founding of recognizing the service that its graduates and then those who served and then came back made in defense of our nation. And that's important to all of us, and it's important to our Aggie community, and it's something that the VRSC doesn't do on our own. We do it in partnership all the way across this campus, across the staff and the faculty, to keep that alive here at our university.
Right. Awesome.
And I will 100% echo and agree with that. That, regardless of time, place, time served, type of service, I think that fundamentally it's a sacrifice. And being able to, being blessed enough to be able to come to a university, pursue higher education, I think that is support. There's support there. I think that, I'm willing to wager that, if everybody were to think about one of their favorite leaders, more often than not, they have some military background, and that's because they want to be great citizens. They want to be great people. And this is, that kind of support is sort of the things that kind of carries us all collectively forward. So I will always argue that it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'll take a slightly different spin on it. So I agree with them completely. I think we have a rich history here at Texas A&M of being a military school and giving back to those people who did serve in the military in any right or regard or respect is very important. But I think it's also, whenever you're supporting veterans, you're supporting people who, like they say, have signed a blank check payable up to their life. But on that, your return on investment is every single veteran that I've run across here, they are going to do something to help other people. It seems to be their ultimate goal is that whatever is invested into them, they will multiply through their endeavors moving on in life.
Yeah. So somebody may be listening to this and, be like, I'm not a student veteran, but is there something I can do to help out? So is there any way that non-veteran students can help support the VRSC?
I can take that. So I think it takes an understanding that the ideal student veteran experience is not to sort of live in a sort of in an enclosed bubble where we're just veterans and we kind of move on through our time here. The ideal student veteran experience, in my opinion, is that, one where you integrate with your community, one where you're able to branch out, meet new people, join new tribes, join new groups, and meet. That's how you become a successful citizen, one that can take their very important military background and integrate that with their life. I think more often than not, I hear student veterans kind of speak of the military experience as if it's sort of like, hey, there was our military experience, everything is a little bit downhill. I usually think the other way around. I think that the end of your service is sort of like that's a launching point for your career. And I think university, higher education, Texas A&M is just that next step, and there's so much potential to be unlocked.
Awesome.
I would say to reach out. If you're sitting in class, I don't know if y'all have this or not, but you're sitting in class and you see a grizzly guy or girl, that's up there, and you're like, okay, we have some kind of understanding that they're probably a little older than the majority of the people in here. Reach out to them. Don't be afraid. They have a plethora of knowledge and experience. They've done crazy things, or they've gone different places, and reach out to them. Don't be afraid of them. I've noticed a lot in classes that people kind of keep to their close knit. So honestly, reach out, talk to them. They're funny, they're fun, they're a good time, and they know where the good snacks are. So definitely reach out. Don't be shy.
I'll add one thing onto that, and it was a program that all three of us missed. Our Aggie Shields is our lending library. It's actually a pretty sizable library we have in the VRSC. And Aggie Shields is also a student organization. Oh. So if there is anybody out there who maybe wants to get involved a little bit with the VRSC, go join Aggie Shields, because that is the group that helps manage our library, issue books, and it's a good way to be involved.
Awesome. You heard it live, everybody. Aggie Shields. Do you have any more information on that at all?
I can get you some. I mean, right now, I
Yes.
don't in front
Okay.
of me, but-
Come see us.
Yeah,
see us.
come
Ask
see
the
us.
front desk, and we'll
Come
give
see
you
us
all the
in the
information you
VRSC.
need.
Yes. So my last question is, how has being involved with the VRSC impacted your student experience?
Ooh, may I go first?
Go ahead.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So, like I spoke about earlier, is you come to campus and you have the affiliation, you know it's there. And so for a long time, I used it as a pantry, right? So I live, 30 minutes away from campus. I don't always bring food. So I'd go in there. If I get a text in our group chats or something that says there's food in the office, I'd come in and eat, and then I'd go on my way. I didn't really utilize any of the resources there. And I feel like I got so wrapped up in trying to get a civilian life in line and academic life in line that I neglected the opportunities of having that peer group and having those resources available. So I ended up coming in more and more, and then meeting more people, getting more involved. And as I got more involved, it became honestly an addiction. I mean, you get to, on a daily basis in between classes, I go and I get to help veterans and I get to improve their lives. And I think coming in and making friends is a great way to get involved and to become a part of what we do there.
Yeah. I want to ask you after that, how is helping veterans, how has that impacted you personally?
Wow, I get to do it every day. So honestly, it's kind of changed the trajectory of my life, right? So I never believed that nonprofits would be something that I'm interested in, but as I dive more into that, it seems to be something that I can't get away from, and it's so fulfilling that it's renewed my sense of purpose, right? So getting to help somebody and seeing that tangible evidence of them and their life being impacted is something that I'll do for the rest of my life. It's something that even if I can't do it full time, I'll find time to do it on the side. So making that difference in people's lives who have that shared commonality of serving their country with me, it's something that is irreplaceable to my life purpose and my drive.
Wow. Awesome.
I apologize. Would you mind repeating the question? The
Yeah, of
original
course. How has being involved with the VRSC impacted your student experience?
Wow. Okay. So with that one, I could definitely talk for hours. But I think a couple of major things is the first is that it's home base for me, whether it's working, whether it's supporting other veterans, it's the social aspect, it's the professional connections. The Veterans Resource Center has always just been home base to me. Anywhere, that's where I spend, I think, 80% of the time classes, and the other 20 is actual class. It's also been a place where I've met, I have some of my most cherished memories, whether they're, their laughs, their frustrations, there's you get the whole package there. And then the last thing is that you always find there's always somebody new there. Every day, you always run into somebody new, and that somebody is somebody with a story, with a background, maybe with a particular issue that, I'm always happy to, hey, let me give you my 2 cents. Let me give you my advice. And I think for me, the reward is, seeing that veteran, come to me later saying, hey, I actually really appreciate the advice, or, hey, do you mind if we follow on more? Hey, would you like to hang out sometimes? I think that's sort of continuing on what, I learned in the military is, just always take care of your community. So to me, that's, I could definitely talk about it for hours, but that's basically those are the fundamentals.
Yeah.
The second part, when you asked Jake earlier, that was, you said about this experience being impactful, right? So I want to take that one. I'm not a student, so I can't answer the first question, but I'll take that second part. I worked for 8 years with undergraduate students here at A&M, and being able to see those undergraduate students that come out of high school and probably spent most of high school dreaming of coming to A&M and having a pretty strong support structure, high school counselors and parents and coaches and all that. Being over in the VRSC and seeing military students and veterans primarily who have been in the military for 4, 6, 8, some of them 20 years. It's a long time to be removed from the high school classroom.
Yeah.
And most of them come here with a family. And I know what it's like to be in the military with a family and come home at night, and I have children and all that. I cannot imagine being an engineering student and coming home with a family. And so it's inspiring to me every day seeing the discipline and the drive that those student veterans have to be focused on their academic pursuits, but also still caring for their families. And I think one of the things that does for our campus community as a whole is just bring something special. It's not better or worse than the experience of the average undergraduate student. It's just different. And it's inspiring to everybody around them if they recognize it and understand it.
Awesome. I love that. I love that answer. Well, thank you all so much for chatting with us about the VRSC and what resources military students have here at A&M. It's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
having us.
pleasure.
It's wonderful to have you.
Yes, thank you. For more information on how you can get involved through the Division of Student Affairs, go to tex.ag/create your Aggie experience, and you can find all episodes of On Air with Student Affairs on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks and gig 'em.